The next step we have is commitment to affirm worth and to show genuine compassion. This is the second one that sometimes it's hard for people to do. I think that this is probably the number one that is a little bit of a struggle, to have to show value even in the face of inappropriate behavior. I mean, imagine somebody's upset at you, your boss is yelling at you, they are upset at how you just performed on something, and you are able to stay there and show value even with him being upset.
Right. But it's hard, though, because keep in mind, if the trigger, response, and the reaction sequences that we have, that we learn, as a 4-year-old, do we freeze, fawn, fight, or flight? I freeze. Somebody gets intense with me, with emotion, and it shocks me to a point that I don't even know what to say. I'm like, and unless I'm aware of my reaction sequence, to go, okay, Kristen, you just froze. Step back. It's okay. What principle am I going to stand on? Commitment to affirm their worth and to show genuine compassion? They're frustrated and angry. Maybe there's a reason. And am I able to actually look at that and own maybe my part in it and recognize that my part may have contributed to their frustration, and to show them compassion, even if they don't show me compassion? That can be tough.
That one is a very tough one, because the first part of that is all persons, including self, are of infinite worth. I think if you can stop and recognize, okay, hold on here. Each one of us are of infinite worth. I don't need to jump into how he is now responding to me, because it'll get me nowhere. He is just as much of value as I am of value. And because of that, I'm going to treat him with just as much love and send just as much value back. And in that, because you have to go back to integrity, to anything that I have caused that might be causing my boss to be upset, I need to take ownership of that.
One of the things that helped me was, in this situation, really with anything, is I think there's only 2 emotions. I don't remember who described this to me as, but there's only 2 emotions. There's love and there's help. When somebody's angry, what do they need help with? They're frustrated. How can I help? You're angry. How can I help? You're disappointed. How can I help? They're reacting. That's a reaction sequence to something going on in them that may have nothing to do with me, or maybe it does. But regardless, if I can see them as a human being with love and compassion, and that maybe their frustration is a byproduct of they just need help because I'm not feeling any love from them right now, how can I help? Sometimes you can actually disarm it.
Yeah, you can diffuse that situation.
Yeah.
That's great. And we have to realize that behavior, for the most part, is always learned. We've talked about this. We have been talking about this the whole time. Behavior is learned. We have talked about the different freedom, fairness, and force. Well, what is the byproduct of living in freedom, fairness, or force world, in a force world or fairness world? You become what you know. That's all you know.
Right.
So they may be acting on all they know because that's all they've ever been shown.
Right. And we don't know what we don't know. So even to think there's another way of doing it, it's just not there.
Right. But like you said, if you can meet somebody in a way of showing genuine compassion in the middle of inappropriate behavior, you may disarm them enough that they feel safe in a climate with you that they don't have to feel so threatened and feel like they have to respond to you in that way. Misbehavior is almost always the symptom of some other problem. You shared that. He may be responding because of a whole nother problem, but you're getting the butt end of it.
Right. And how often do we take our frustration and anger out on somebody just because it's safe?
Right. And another part to that is behavior is belief linked. We have talked about beliefs throughout this whole journey on what beliefs do, how they impact us. And if we can recognize behavior is always belief linked, there's probably something.
Right. The belief may be the bad guy here.
Yes.
They're not
you.
intending to. They just, again, we're just in the line of fire. And, thank heavens, if we can have a commitment to affirm their worth, we've got it covered. Another one, is the third freedom principle is the commitment to growth. This is the transferring of responsibility from a temporary steward to a rightful steward. As parents and we're raising kids, we're teaching them how to grow. We teach them how to tie their shoes. We teach them how to get dressed. We teach them how to talk. There's all this socializing that happens, right, wrong, or otherwise. But there comes a time when our responsibility needs to get transferred to the right person, and that's them. If they're not in our stewardship at all, which we talked about, that's grounds for big fights, when we overstep our bounds. That we have to be very careful. So number one, a temporary steward teaches, trains, motivates, and places protective barriers and requires accountability. 2, man's basic drive is to make his own decisions. We are empowered when we can make our own decisions. We're empowered when we can take responsibility and accountability for ourselves.
But come on, we don't want anyone to make our decisions for us, really?
True. You think of a 2-year-old, in fact, the funniest thing, when my daughter was young, she wanted to get dressed. We were late, and I dressed her really fast. She screamed and cried and kicked because she knew how to get dressed herself. And I walked away to grab my stuff so we could leave, and she tore every stitch of clothing off her, shoes, socks, everything, and sat on the floor in a tantrum because I robbed her of her growth journey. She knew how to get dressed. And in my hurry to want to get out the door, I robbed that of her. So we have, that's part of that innate shine and drive and to succeed that's in us. And if we rob people of that too much, too long, they end up not trusting their instincts. They end up down that depression cycle. And that's so hard.
It's learned helplessness. What we are trying to do for them, for their commitment to growth, is to start transferring the stewardship back to them, to start making those decisions. Now, obviously, we're not going to tell a 7-year-old they can watch any type of movie they want because they are not of age yet to know and understand right from wrong and what effects that will have on them.
There's parts of our brains that aren't developed till age 23, 24. You think about that and what we allow ourselves to do, and we're not 23 and 24 yet, right? We drive, we vote, we do all these things. Sometimes our brain's not quite ready. It's true, but bottom line, if we steal away someone's growth in that growth journey, we rob them of so much more. So the drive that man has to make his own decisions is critical. The other thing is, everyone has the seeds to the solutions to his own problems within himself. Remember that computer brain that's recording both actual and the perception within us? Knowing that the actual real of what happened is there, those are the seeds. That as we connect to that intuitive part of us in our intuitive relationship with self, the intuitive part of us as we communicate in our relationships with others, we can tie into all of that stored memory that's actually real beyond our perceptions and the filters that we had. And with that, our own growth is powerful. And, number 4 in this, self-esteem rises in direct proportion to the amount of responsibility a person takes for his own actions. Think about that. The success you feel the first time you tie your own shoes, you do the 2 bunny ears, yay. Think about that older. The first time you got in the car and drove the car by yourself, you think about the self-esteem that was when your parents handed you the keys and let you go. You think about the success, the first job you have. As we take responsibility for ourselves on those types of things, think about the growth that comes as we take responsibility for the internal struggles that we have.
I think when we talk about that, I think this is something that I have learned as a mother that I probably could have done a little bit better, and I have been actually talking with my teenagers about, because they will come to me with advice, or they will come to me wanting information, or how do I handle a situation like this? Guess what I was always jumping up ready to do? give them all the solutions.
Right, because you're a smart mama.
This is how you should do it, and this is what you should say, and this is how you should handle it. Well, I think I missed on teaching a principle and then letting them come up with the tools to solve their own problem or situation or circumstance that they're learning how to deal with.
Right, because number 5, a skillful steward sustains those under him or her in his charge. That's the parent. You could have just as easily, if the awareness was there, right, to say, you know what do you think? What ideas do you have? And I'm telling you, their ideas are sometimes a lot better than our own for them and what they need. And so much growth comes in those moments.
And I think if I were to continue to keep making those choices for them, I'm teaching them learned helplessness. And I might be feeding a belief or a perception they don't know how to take care of and do it themselves. They don't know how to make decisions for themselves when they are so capable. But what was I teaching them?
Do you know, I think of a story that an experience actually growing up. You know, mom and dad took one of the boys to the store. They had saved up their money to buy a car, a little toy car. And the one that they wanted was more expensive than what they had saved up for. And so they decided, you know, dad gave them the option, well, we can go home and you can save up and get this better car, or you can opt to get this one. And they just didn't want to wait, you know, age appropriate decision, you know, the toy's right there in front of them, bought the car, went home, and within an hour or two, the car was broken, right? Here's a situation where, you know, the kids, well, can we take it back because it broke? And dad teaches them, no, you broke it. We need to save next time. But because dad gave them the opportunity to choose and learn and have something break when they were young, the older they got, they learned to take care of things. They learned to be more responsible to a point that, I mean, they design planes that have world records now because proper stewardship was taught and then released to them when it was time. It's such a powerful thing.
Letting our kids grow as they go and giving them the chance to make mistakes, the chance to buy the car that's going to break, even though we know they are wasting their money. What a valuable lesson that they learned.
Right, and on a cheap scale.
Yes, that's awesome.
Yeah.